What's good, y'all? It is Tuesday, December 23rd. My name is Patrick, and you're listening to The Morning Show. Okay. We're back. Week 3 of these morning show episodes. I appreciate everybody who's been tuning in. I hope you have found one or many of these episodes impactful for you, or at the very least informative. Excited to continue doing them. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And I will say that if I didn't know already, it has affirmed in me the passion I have for this kind of medium. Podcasting specifically, conversations generally, maybe social commentary, I guess. It's interesting to me because, like, the morning show being, anywhere from 10 to 30-minute episodes, the shorter ones aren't always considered quote-unquote podcasts. I think if people were to have a general definition for what a podcast is, it's probably a 1.5 to 3 hour not live radio program, recorded radio program, if I had to guess. I think the 3 hour number is probably not the norm for podcasts, I would say, but I do think 90 to 2 hours for sure. 90 minutes to 2 hours, I think, is pretty common. And I think that what I've really enjoyed about even doing these shorter morning show episodes is that it has been a good avenue for me to stay engaged, to stay tapped in with what's happening, particularly locally here in Indianapolis, but everywhere. So I'm excited to keep doing it. And yeah, it's fun. Speaking of fun, episode 8, I just wanted to share that this conversation that I had with Sarah Silcox, I referenced it I had 5 meetings. I referenced it in all 5. And I feel like just artificial intelligence, generally speaking, has become something that everybody is passingly familiar with, where I really was appreciative of Sarah was in just how she's been, educating herself on this particular topic and just being willing to share some of her kind of like open, unfettered thoughts about all of this and how it's playing out and how, AI is impacting her business with Connection Club Indie and also like her professional work doing consulting. And it's just really interesting to hear other people and how they navigate and approach it. One of the things that I found myself talking about a lot in those conversations I had on Monday was something that she mentioned about how AI takes the friction out of life, or makes life frictionless. And that's something that I've just been thinking about a lot. And I think that what I have said, mostly what it has made me think about, is just how the friction is the adversity, is the barrier and hurdle and everything that you have to go through in your life. That on one hand makes your life more difficult, and on the other hand is the fuel of the flame that is your art, your creative expression, your passion, whatever that might be. And I think what we were talking about in our conversation, Sarah and I, is how AI takes that away and flattens culture. If you look at that Substack post, you'll see there's a link to a book that talks about the flattening of culture, and I can't think of it off the top of my head at the moment. But yeah. So shout out to everybody that's tuned in to that episode. If you haven't yet, pop on Substack, Apple Podcast, YouTube. You can find it there. Yeah, and check out Sarah's work with Connection Club Indie. She's doing awesome stuff. And if you're based here in Indianapolis and you're looking for ways to get connected and hang out with cool people, go check out what Sarah's got going on. All right. What was the other thing I wanted to talk about? Something that caught my eye was an article by the Indy Star reacting to, I guess, another article from the Washington Post editorial board calling Indiana the state of the year. Let me launch up here. Let's see. Indiana lawmakers' rejection of President Donald Trump's push for mid-decade redistricting has caught the attention of the Washington Post editorial board, which named Indiana its inaugural state of the year. This new tradition, the editorial board looked for a state that did the most to improve or otherwise acted in a way worthy of emulation. Calling mid-decade redistricting a race to the bottom, the board wrote it found Indiana's actions most admirable. I do not have a Washington Post subscription, so I did not read the article because I could not access it. And I am not savvy enough to access it for free. So I just have this Indy Star article to go off of. But they, from what they pulled, the quotes and the things that they are referencing here, they say nice things about how Senate Republicans specifically stepped up and kind of bucked Trump and Braun when it came to redistricting, and referencing, threats of various kind of nature that they were facing. And they also said it is no small thing for lawmakers to say no to the President of the United States. It's even more remarkable for state-level Republicans to withstand the full force of President Donald Trump's bully pulpit for months on end. Something I found really interesting is that in the same breath as them saying Senate Republicans rebuked Mike Braun, they go on to, I guess, praise him. I'll read specifically what the Star wrote. The editorial board also mentioned other policies passed in the past year that have raised Indiana's profile. Governor Mike Braun's property tax cuts, the removal of income limits to access private school vouchers, cutting overall spending while increasing education funding, and changing zoning laws to make it easier to start charter schools. Oh, okay. I apparently didn't read the whole article. The editorial board praises the property tax reform. And they do mention how the income limits removal for private school vouchers, or for vouchers, how public school advocates have been arguing against specifically the amount left for public schools does not keep up with inflationary costs. House Minority Leader Phil Giaquinta said that all in all, this editorial is yet another example of Washington elites failing to grasp the real situation on the ground here in Indiana. That was something, and again, this is written from the purview of the Star, so a little bit of bias in kind of what they've collected here, but based on what I can gather from it, I would say that one, we always have to acknowledge that the Washington Post is owned by Jeff Bezos, who is one of these tech billionaires that we talked about in episode 8, that is sitting behind Donald Trump at the inauguration, who is donating to the East Wing Ballroom or the Ballroom or whatever the fuck it is. And somebody who is generally injurious to the world that we currently live in. So I think we always have to acknowledge that that is what's happening. That is like the head of the snake at the Washington Post. As far as the editorial board, I mean, I'm not like super familiar with like their makeup and their background and the history. The thing that I think I remember that they were gonna endorse Kamala Harris for president in 2024, and Bezos squashed it, I guess. And so there was no endorsement. I think the other thing is, like, I do appreciate them talking about raising Indiana's profile 100%. Everything that we've got going on with our education system currently is front and center. And I think that you're going to be hearing a lot about that next week on some of the daily episodes, and then the episode 10, you're going to be hearing a lot more about that, particularly as it pertains to the Indianapolis Local Education Alliance and the fallout from that. It is, I don't know, it's really interesting. And I think State of the Year is just like, I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting to be first in something that is new, because Indiana is not generally thought of as a state that gets first in much, especially from a political sense. And I think that even something like this does kind of elevate the profile of, or like the eyes on Indiana and what's happening here. I think the problem lies in, like, what do we do with that? Like, where, like, if this gives us any momentum, like, what do we do with that momentum? I think that's the question we got to ask. And I think that I've been really lucky recently to be connected with people who want to do stuff with that momentum. It just really, I think if redistricting taught us anything, it's that Hoosiers are willing to set aside some ideological differences if it means we need to shut down external influencers in order to sort out our own shit. I think at the end of the day, I feel like what I've learned, or at least had affirmed, is that, like, people from Indiana want to sort out their own shit. And I would say that's probably what it looks like from a state to state basis. And you know what? I think that's fine. I think the purpose and point of the federal government is to provide the kind of wider support that a state might need because of the amount of people that live in that state, because of, again, the policies that might be made in said state that affect the economy in the way that workers' rights and things happen in those types of, in those places. It all just depends. And the federal government is supposed to be something that can support the things that we need and fill in the gaps where they arise. If the federal government operated in that way, it would eliminate the need for nonprofits to exist. But that's another conversation for another time. All right. Yeah. So, state of the year, Indiana. We're making national headlines for the work that we're doing. Oh, one other thing I did want to say. As far as what I can glean from, the Star, uh, the article or state of the year, the editorial board for the Washington Post is focused on the legislators. And I think what I agree with from Minority Leader Giaquinta is that Washington outsiders or people just outside of the state don't know what's going on in the state. Because if you ask not just Democrats, but Republicans who voted no on redistricting, they're going to tell you that it was the constituents, the people, Hoosiers here in Indiana, everyday working families, the people here who got on the phones, who wrote letters, who wrote emails, who showed up at rallies, who showed up at the State House, who made it known that this is not the way that we do things here. Like, I think it's a glaring omission, or even maybe intentional omission, to leave out the people. Now, the Star may have left that context out. I don't know. I'm just telling you how I felt after reading the Star's take on it. So remember, if you're listening to this right now, always remember that we, the people, have been moving things here, and we can make movement in Indiana. I'm going to wrap this up. This is the only daily morning show episode that's going to come out this week. If you are a celebrator of winter holidays, there are a few going on right now. Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas to all who celebrate. I know that there are other holidays coming up, and I feel like I am not super versed or know them well enough to shout them out. And I feel bad because my friend Liz Kleinrock has written a book about multiple holidays that happen across the year. So, anyways, I say all that to say my wife is on break. My son is now on break from daycare. And we've got plans through this week to do stuff with family. And so I'm taking a little bit of break from the morning show. So this is all you're going to get for now. Make sure you go back and listen to episode 8. Check out all of the main episodes that have been out over the past few Mondays. Lots of really good conversation in there. And like this show is shaping up to be like the thing that I think I've always really wanted to do. And that's no offense to the Don Chi show or conversation piece. It's just like those things have helped me build to what this is becoming. So I'm excited about it. We're going to keep going next week, episode 9, next Monday. I have a conversation with Representative Mitch Gore from House District 89 here in Indiana. I'm excited to share that with y'all because I think this is the kind of thing that I want from politicians that represent me and people in my city and in my state. People who are willing to sit down and have conversations like this and just listen, but also be vulnerable and share about their experiences. So super excited to share that with y'all. That's coming out next Monday. I think that's the 29th. Yes, 29th. It's got to be 7 days. So be on the lookout for that. We're going to be in that next week too. You're gonna be hearing some snippets from another conversation that I've had regarding the ILEA and kind of the fallout from that and kind of what we can be expecting heading into 2026. And so I'm really excited to share that because, like I said at the top, the morning show, the way I stay tapped in, the way I stay engaged, it's keeping me accountable to that. And what I really, really am excited about with this show is just being able to share this information with more people and at least just putting it in a place that people can find it. So until then, if you're celebrating a holiday right now, if you observe a holiday, I hope you have a good one. If you're on break right now, I hope the break's everything that you need it to be. And yeah, I don't know how to end this. Other than if you have been liking the show, if you've been listening to the show and you've enjoying it, a like goes a really long way. A subscribe or a follow goes a really long way, and a share goes a really long way. So, if you could do any one of those three things, I really appreciate it. It helps me grow, helps things that it helps sustain the things that I want to keep doing in terms of these conversations. But really, it's just I appreciate the engagement and a chance to like tap in with y'all about the stuff that we're talking about here. So thanks for hanging out with me, and until next week, happy holidays.